comes in knows what we do at the beginning here. When we have the shared space and the coherence that comes from agreement and from relaxing into the meditation space, what we think of as the quantum field or the heart. So now if we'll all just relax, and coming home, always, I think the first experience is to close our eyes and to go inward in a way. But in that inward turning, we're all moving into the same inner space, because that's where oneness is. So as we relax and take a deep breath, yeah. And on that inhale, allowing the lifting and the arising at the same time. Language doesn't work because there's a falling. And on the exhale, we fall into love. And in the inhale, we lift up and allow and connect. And on the exhale, we falling into love. Let me fall. Let me glide. There's a moment where fear and love collide. There's a moment where fear and dream collide, and then this oneness that arises in the apparency of polarity, but in the reality of the oneness. So with another deep inhale and relaxing even deeper, we fall into love. Out of our minds and into our hearts, in this space, this vibrant aliveness that is source. And our relaxing into this space of true nature, we can acknowledge it as the quantum field. And another analogy or a reference, it would be called the Father. So when Jesus said, I and the Father are one, this is what he was pointing to. I and this field of oneness, this field of aliveness, this quantum field of awareness, the awakened awareness. We are one. And in this oneness, we come together to acknowledge and experience the true connection with our own heart and with the one heart. This is where oneness arises. This is where oneness is experienced. This is the source. This is a space, the awareness that is always available in any moment when the external reality is agitated and compelling, and the experience of it being against us. We can come home. We can, through just one inhale and relaxing into the space that's always already what's true, then we come home. And the external world can recede and relax, and we can experience our connection to freedom and peace and love. This spaciousness is most accurately described as awake awareness. It vibrates with possibility, with potential. And it's in our interaction with it that it comes alive as realities. There is nothing of limitation here. And as we are no longer limited as a person, then our experience and our connection and our arising reality from the field is freed up into endless potential and specificity with whatever it is, whatever the frequency is that we're emitting. And so in this connection, we begin to through the breath, through the relaxing, through the acknowledgement, we start to experience the fullness, the unmistakable aliveness that is the one I am. Tat Vam Asi, thou art that. This is always available. The opportunity, the invitation is never to be caught in limitation or fear or consternation, knowing that with one simple turn, I am here now. That's always what's true. There are no polarities here. The mind does not enter in with its limitation and with its limiting language and description of reality. The mind has no place here. This is the heart. This is the opening. This is the garden. And it is the one I am. So relaxing into this space, we begin to share this time together. And each one of us knows it in the same way. This is where oneness resides. This is where everything that we know ourselves to be is exactly the same for each of us, a parent, others. So this acknowledgement this time is just the relaxation right now as we come together and sit together to open this time together. And so it is. once did a process to find out what your spirit animal is. The only thing that would ever show up for me was a frog. Right? And I was reminded of that right then, because when I began to Om, I was the dear young young boy at the time that I was doing spirit animal work with him in Houston. And so I told him, he was like the mountain lion or something. And so I told him, I said, Braxton, the only thing I can come up with is a frog. And he said, that's okay, Mama Polly, that's okay, because frogs are like transforming all the time. They're like transforming. And I can just call you Kermit, like the frog on Sesame Street is. So for a long time, I was Kermit. For a long time in Houston, I was also called Yoda, but now we have the real Yoda here. So that's taken. Yeah. What was up for me today when I was sitting before our time together was the opening into how insistent the mind is on polarity. And it occurred to me because I was listening to something, maybe a YouTube meditation or an interview with a spiritual teacher or another. And she said, well, of course we have to have unhappiness, or how would we know that we're happy? And I thought, that's bullshit. I know when I'm happy. I don't have to have it in the context of being unhappy. That's the purview of the mind. The mind created polarity. The nature of reality is not polarized. The quantum field is not polarized. We bring it into and access something with our minds caught in polarity. But we have to remember that the fall was the eating of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. And that's when the mind came in, metaphorically, and began to posit everything on the basis of the pairs of opposites. That's the mind's game. It's not what's true and true nature. Awake awareness has no need to assert what it is to be joyful or blissful on the basis of being in despair or unhappy. Yeah. It's not a contrast. It's not a polarity. Our true nature is prior to and over and above that fundamental mind-made game of good and evil and black and white and happy and unhappy. That was my brilliant thought for the day. But I think it bears being aware of in your own consideration, in your own meditation, is to not be held and continue to be, have your consideration caught by the mind's insistence on polarity, because that puts into motion this dynamic that is fundamentally going to be fear-based, and it also distorts our frequency, which is what we are impacting the field with, which shows up as our reality. And so it's important to be aware of that, but so that we know what it feels like to be healthy. We don't have to be sick to have that experience. Just be aware that you're looking always for the good end of the stick. And when you have that awareness, understand that there's the apex point. I think of the stick, the polarity, as being the baseline for the triangle, but the apex point is the apex, and it's beyond the polarity. So that's where our true nature and our true experience, we need to acknowledge that. We need to know health without illness, know wealth without poverty, to know abundance, to know everything is not based on the polarity. The nature of the polarity is that when you've got one end, you're implying the other end. So it's never full on, fully experienced as clearly, say, good or love there's always the undercurrent of the other end of the stick, that separation or illness are not so good. So I think that that was if there's a teaching or Dharma talk for today, that would be at the heart of it. But I did want to do something together with you before we start doing, before I start fielding topics or responding to questions. And this, you don't have to go into a meditative state. But I want to do a little exercise where I give you the experience, which many of you already have available to you. But it's the experience of the distinction between who I am and what I have. So if you'll just close your eyes and take a deep, relaxing breath, I want to guide you through this little short experiment. So in this spaciousness that we open up into again, we know it as awake awareness. This is consciousness. And in this space, I want you to invite in whatever it occurs to you right now that you're dealing with that you would label as a problem, whatever that is. And I want you to imagine it or see it as a shape, as a form. So it might be like, if it's an idea that you need to get rid of a lot of things, you may see a trash can, you may see whatever, but have an image of what that problem, what it occurs to you that would represent that, in quotes, problem, your primary issue or problem right now. And I'll give you just a half a minute to allow that to show up for you. Now, as you observe that creation, right, it's now, this represents the problem, my worst problem right now, whether it's a relationship or a health issue or money or whatever. Now it's looking like this, whatever the image was that you came up with. The experience right now is that you are observing that, right? Is that up for everybody? Yeah, getting it? So you're in this field, in the field of consciousness, you're experiencing an image of the problem, right? And so now I want you to see it as a creation. And the definition of a creation is that it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? So it could look like, I don't know, a toy train. It could look like a trash can. It could look like whatever, but you can see it there. And this is now your problem, and it's configured this way, and that's the whole story right there, right? And you are the one who's observing that, who's seeing it, witnessing it. Yeah? So right in this moment, you know yourself as the one who has it, but it is a creation. Now, what's been going on with you regarding this problem is something like resistance to it, or wishing it was not there, or wanting it to be different than it is. But right now, I want you just to relax. You are awake awareness, observing this creation, this problem. And now what I want you to do is to move closer to it in your mind's eye and to see that it's got definition, but it's an object. All objects come to pass, except when we're in resistance to them. So now I want you to go even closer to this configuration, this image of what is representing your problem. I want you to go up close to it and put out your hands and touch the problem and look at it and say, this is not I, this is my creation. I am the one who can see it, yeah? Allowing yourself without resistance to reach out and include what you've called a problem will begin to transfigure it, because there's no resistance there in the same degree, holding it in that space of being against you. So just allow that problem to kind of morph into peace or ease or a different image. Realize that it's a creation, you know. And in this moment, realize that you can allow it to be there without resistance. And in that allowing, it simply dissolves. I reclaim all my creating energy from it. And so it is. So what that experience gives you is what can ongoingly be your way of being with your life in the world when anything shows up, is to not label it as a problem. It's just what's in front of you to do, or just what's happening. And from that perspective, you are in a different relationship to it. In other words, you're not in resistance to it. The power of everything that gets stuck with us and that implodes in us and gives us suffering and pain is our resistance. There's no suffering without resistance. There may be pain, and there may be something like, I'd prefer it not to be this way. But if you don't go into the resistance, which is like that, pushing up against it, then it simply doesn't have the wherewithal. It depends on our resistance to create suffering. It depends on our resistance to be labeled a problem. And once that label's in place, we're stuck with it. We're actually creating that it's going to be there in all of its impact on us because of our resistance to it. So that's the other part of the Dharma talk today. So we'll open up the floor now, and we can talk about problems or look at anybody's concerns that they might have, that I might walk you through this way of being with something that you would prefer not to have it be that way. Euphemistically speaking.
So if you can go ahead and raise your hand if you're in the room. If you're in the group, you can raise your hand with the reaction button, and we'll see what. Yeah. So Elise.
Yes.
And again, I'm sorry, I forgot my mic this week. So if you could speak loudly, and we'll repeat. If you can't hear, please put in the chat and we'll repeat the questions.
Okay. So Polly, I was talking with you one-on-one a little bit about, you were sharing how when you had your experience sort of getting beyond the mind, it was a time when you realized that you had this relationship with your son and your sister, that you suddenly had this realization that you clung to them. You had this like this need for that relationship. I don't know if you were to use the word codependent.
That would work.
Yeah, anyway, codependent. But you had this, like, you had this awakening to the fact that you didn't need that anymore, and that really set you free. And I thought about that a lot. And what I was talking with David about it later, and one of the things that comes up for me now and then is we have such a wonderful relationship. We've been together 38 years, and we have a blast together. I mean, we love each other, and we have fun, and we share, and we're just soulmates. And it comes up for both of us, like, you know, again, projecting in the future, but wow, I've lost my soulmate. Who would I be and how to exist in this world? Because, you know, it's almost part of me would be lost. And I was talking with another friend this morning about it, and she was saying, well, that just brings up science. What about there? And it's like, yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's projecting the future, but what's the work I can do now? Because I know we talked about Brian Katie before, and she talked about death actually quite a bit, and she would say, like, when someone dies, they never leave you, they're always in your mind, and it's like you're in, like, you're in there in the kitchen cooking. It's not here, like here, it's one. But I would love I hope you understand sort of where I'm going. So I love your comments on that because it's a big one for a lot of us.
Right. We of a certain age.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So at least did they get it? Could they hear?
Did you guys get it? Just no. Some people they said no. Okay.
Elise was basically asking about how do you deal with the idea of loss? This is correct. They couldn't hear you. What would be the core of your?
She has a soulmate.
She has a soul,
Her beloved David,
right?
and have a great relationship. And the fear is if you lose your relationship, where are you?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Mhm.
And how do we? What about death?
Right.
And do I have that right?
Yeah, death. It's not a fear of death, and I know death is not, I don't even think death is a bad thing. It's just like how that conversation we had about people anymore, you get into this realization,
Right.
you shifted your relationship with people.
That's right.
Then you still love them, but
Yeah.
you didn't need them.
Well, they didn't need me anymore, which is what I'd projected onto them.
Right.
Yeah. So there was a time you and David have been together a long time, but there was a time before him, right? Right. So this is the cycle of time when you and he are in awareness together in this particular part of your lives together. And it's been the major part of your lives together. And you've loved what it's been and you continue to love it. It's generative. And like you said, I mean, my favorite F word is fun. And I think everybody should have that at the top of their list. But so that bodes well, for anybody that you're with, companions along the way, but especially in a primary relationship like this. Anytime we go into our mind about anything, we're actually cutting off our experience, the vibrant generative space of the eternal present moment, which is where we are if we're not in our minds. And so it's like what I would want for you is for your commitment to being with, and you are so consciously with and together, you and he, with each other. But for you to be even more present in this present moment without your mind, and noticing when the mind is going into a future scenario, because you didn't know what this was going to be like these 43 years, right? Or 40, whatever. And this, even today, the joy that you have had in being together, you wouldn't have known yesterday what the quality of that was going to be. So it never serves us to be in our mind about anything. Now, the fact that we go there, the practice is to see what I'm believing and to allow myself to let that go. It's like noticing the crawl on the CNN screen and then either turning away or changing the channel, right? So because it does not serve us to be caught up in anything except the eternality of this present moment. Our presence there is so vital. Its aliveness is there. That's the only place that there is aliveness. Probably part of what the relationship has been like that's been so satisfying and fulfilling for both of you has been your ability to be together in that present moment. Make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, you good?
May I make a comment on that, which I just got, it's a quick comment.
Mhm.
It reminded me when we were talking about Byron Katie, and that was really a great answer, because the stories that we tell, we always think about the story we tell about the past, and what we felt and how it's affected us in the past. What I heard you saying also is it's not beneficial for us to make stories about the future. that also takes us out of the present moment. And to be aware of that story, and without the story, there's no suffering, future or past. That was what I got. That's what I thought was really a great answer.
Thank you for the clarification, Grace. It's helpful to get that slice of it. Yeah, you know, it's like, what does it mean to be present right here, right now? It only means one thing, which is kind of seems simplistic in a way. It just means to not be believing what you're thinking right now. That's all that it means to be we are already, this is what's already true right here, right now, is what's really true. And only with the thought process, with the mind going into fear. You know, one of our favorite quotes from Katie is, if you want to be in terror, get a future. And that's what the mind does. And it can never contribute to the fullness of now. The mind can never contribute anything to the fullness of this present moment. And this present moment is not this little bitty intersection between the past and the future. It's eternity, and it's always only this. It's not a time-based perception. And when we open into that, and that's sometimes I say, if there was another name for the one I am, it would be now. That's the fullness of our true nature, is now, this, now. Yeah. Thank you.
So Linda has a question. Right
Hi,
here.
Polly.
Hi, Linda.
It's good to be back with you. The process that you just did with us, it was like exactly what I needed, and I would just like a little support in fine tuning this. When I started to meet with you 6 weeks ago, I experienced a dramatic shift of it's very body for me. So the body symptoms alleviated and my energy came back, and I was feeling really good. And then somebody new came into my life, a romantic thing, and something got triggered. And now I'm in the other end of the stick, where I'm experiencing major GI issues like I haven't experienced in a very long time. And I see from what you said that a lot of this is resistance. I am not supposed to be feeling this. And if there's anything else you can offer, I'm just so available to hear what you have to say.
So let me get it straight, Linda. You're not supposed to be feeling what? What aspect of what you just
So
described?
the mind is saying I am not supposed to be feeling so much, having so many issues with my belly. I should be better by now. I'm doing everything right. I shouldn't be reacting to this new relationship by becoming so churned up in my belly. Yeah.
Mm. So you're correlating this belly condition with the new relationship?
With the fear that the core beliefs that have been stirred up. Yeah.
Yeah, so the belly issue is actually those core beliefs, right?
Right.
Yeah, so did one of them come up in the little exercise we did looking at it as the problem?
Well, I've been working with the core beliefs really closely by myself and with Robin. When we did the exercise, I just really went with the imagery of my belly, and I went in that place of, this is not me, this is what I have.
Yeah, and
I
so
mean,
that
go
can be
ahead.
a slope of that. And I'm glad you're bringing it up, because it's not about making the problem an other. It's actually about allowing it to come all the way home. It's when we've defined and labeled something as a problem, then we don't even have access to it, because that fundamentally is the resistance. So it's like, how do I love my way through this? How do I come home in this most, not to make a pun, but in this most visceral way, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's like going there and being in it and feeling it and allowing it. And you may very well have some insights occur to you about the nature of this distress that's feeling like the GI condition or the belly condition. Because what's going to be underneath all of this is going to be the fundamental childhood wound, what I call the core self-concept. We have so many different variations on that theme, and that can show up as in physicality, and it can show up in relationship and finances. It can show up in every arena, but the core self-concept is going to be there. So you have the 6 steps to freedom, right, Linda?
Oh, yeah. And I'm working with them. Yeah.
Good. So so what was the specific question that I can help you with right now? I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what's the specific question. I mean, it's like the thought comes that, well, I've been working with the core beliefs and I still have this thing. It's like, I feel it's like I'm listening. I'm hearing myself say this. So I've been working with a core belief. I thought I had it, and I'm still getting the physical condition. And then that brings up another core belief, which is there's something terribly wrong with me. That's right. Yeah. And that's the belief, the whole thing is without resistance and without identification with the body, like this is who I am, the limiting identification with the body, then when we have that, then the resistance shows up like, I've been doing this long enough now, what's wrong with me? Right.
Yeah.
So now it's gonna reinforce your fundamental core belief about yourself. I never do it right. I'm not good enough, or whatever that is. Yeah. So the actual expression of giving up resistance is, I think it's in a Byron Katie worksheet, but it's like, I look forward to having this the rest of my life. Yeah. Did I get that right, children? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So
And so the experience, and you can't, that's a high bar, but you can start to experience just allowing, because without resistance, pain is no longer suffering. It's just pain. Yeah. But now you're relating this to a lot of other things, I think. Yeah.
So I didn't really have a specific question, but I think what you've said it just offered me some really good guidance.
Good. I hope that direction, going in that direction, moving towards what it is, it's like, it's kind of like I used to say when I was still dating, it's like, show me what you got, right? That's what we're going to say to this issue, this gut pain, this
Well,
like shows up. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I am dating, and show me what you got, and here it comes.
Yes. Exactly. But see, it's like it's yours, and that lack of resistance to it, you have access to it, and it's all it's waiting for. Sometimes I don't even like to say this. It sounds so airy-fairy. All it's waiting for is love and inclusion, because what's created it is you're being against yourself at some level.
Yeah, that's what it completely feels like. Thank you.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Someone with a defined head in human design is asking about the difference between being in your head versus being in your mind.
Well, the way that human design works, it would seem to me, is that any one of the centers is going to be an energetic kind of thing. So even if you have like an undefined G center or an undefined will center, like the heart, right? You have a corollary to that in your body and in your idea of yourself, like you do with the mind and the so forth. But the way that it functions, and I'm going to hand this over to Robin. The way that the head center functions is different from the mind's insistence on running the show. Yeah,
That's interesting.
Anything's possible.
I think that's a good distinction.
I don't think the head center functions as the mind does. I think it functions differently. The whole thing about human design for me, from the beginning of when I learned about it in 1999, is that I felt that it was like the owner's manual that you should have gotten when you were born, like you get when you get a new car. And so I think of it in a very specific way of the mechanics of how this avatar or that avatar operates. And from that perspective, the human mind caught in polarity and in fear is, I don't know that it's a helpful correlation to human design, because it supersedes and messes with everything, you know. Even when you understand your design and your process, if your mind, not your head center, but your mind is still caught in fear and resistance and projection, then your human design is, you know, it's like a great outfit that left without you, but so I think there's a distinction there between function and the way that the mind works. That's
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
the question.
Ah, Susan, yeah. So again, if you could speak loudly, that would be lovely.
Okay, Polly, what I wanted to just talk about was dealing with grief. And, you know, the feelings that are so natural in us when we see someone suffering. Or we hear a really negative thing from the news. And, you know, like I don't watch the news and then all of a sudden I'll see some trend on my computer that kind of stops me. Because it seems pretty horrifying. And I've noticed lately that seems to pile up in me. I heard you say earlier that we just have to feel this and allow ourselves not to resist the compassion or empathy or whatever it is that we're feeling, and allow that to process through it rather than resist it, push it away. So I would just like to speak to that a little bit more, because I've been feeling a lot of grief lately, and just how to process it so that it doesn't just drag me to the pits.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the high bar, but anything like grief or concern, worry, concern, fear, anything like that, actually you need to do the work that you have to do with it from your own woundedness. When you,
I don't mean fear.
and grief, okay,
Yeah.
grief, right,
Yeah, it's not
sadness.
even work. It's me really feeling.
The feeling, yeah,
Or-
you use first, this is just the first slice, use that feeling to do the 6 steps on, to find out what's at the heart of the belief that's creating the grief. Now, what'll be left in forgiveness, you forgive yourself for whatever part that has to do with it, because there will be a part there. We get conditioned very early on with these things. This is not, I'm not trying to deny the process of grief or the reality of it, but you have to get your shit out of it first. And that's always true about everything, especially if we have an issue around what looks like a collective thing, right? Like the general condition in the world today that we see or hear about or whatever. So using that feeling to do the 6 steps on, then from that place, you will see clearly. And what you might see is a way in which you have been projecting onto a circumstance or a situation, or what you might see is some opening into an action step for yourself, right? I mean, but until you get that part that is yours off of it, then the clarity is just not available.
Isn't that everybody's? Isn't that a natural heart-centered feeling? Feel grief when you see something someone said.
It's not true nature. It's not awake awareness. It's not awake awareness, but it is human, and it is everybody has it. That's true. But what we're looking to do is to go meta to that so that we're not held at that frequency, because that frequency is one of fear. So we get to operate at the level of getting that off and then seeing what's really there and what is my part in it. The clarity comes. Otherwise, what we're doing is that we're mucking around in what, yeah, everybody has it. That's no permission. That doesn't, we don't want to play there just because that's what's been the truth for 5,000 years in this Kali Yuga. We're trying to transcend it. And the way we do is to see our part and whatever is pulling us that's clearly coming out of the collective, but there's no separation. That space of meditation, of awake awareness that we go into, that's one. That's where everything is one. When we do this work using our personal experience to do it, our contribution is to the quantum field. It's a different frequency. So it's a very powerful thing to use one's own sense of compassion and heartbreak, right? But to find that peace in you, because there will be that. There's a reason why we feel that way. Out of that, it's not that you're now cold and shut down and not responsive. It's just that you're clear. And like I said, from that clarity, you know, I think the Bible quote is, we see through a glass darkly and then face to face. And how we behave and act when it's face to face is entirely different. And we will not know it ahead of time because it's not mind made. Yeah. So this is not to deny everything you're pointing to. And this is a question that comes up for all of us. Yeah. Wow. Powerful. I'm so glad you came today.
Yeah, so Grace has a question. We've got it.
It's a comment when brief, because I was feeling into that as you were speaking that that's a story. Good, maybe if I was grieving or something, I have a story that this shouldn't be happening versus this is just what happened. Then I switched on to like Mother Teresa or someone who was around a lot of yucky stuff. And she just managed to just stay in her love frequency and do all of this work that she did. She didn't have any stories going on that kept her down or put her into resistance. That's what I meant.
Mhm. Well, she was in clarity and it no longer burdened her, right? Because it's at the level of mind that we create burden through our resistance. I mean, what transforms when we, and transmutes when we bring it and clear out the frequency of our own personal rejection, our fear, our whatever our core belief about ourselves is that we come into a different frequency and there's unlimited possibility in terms of service and connection and expression there.
So we've got about 2 more minutes before the top of the hour.
Okay.
Anyone else have something they'd like Pali to comment on or like to say, your experience? Yeah, Tashina.
I think it's a neat how you use soothing with a grief, and often when I think of a trigger, I think it's like maybe I'm upset,
Right.
angry, or but like to think of grief or to think of worry or another emotion that it is a trigger. Anything other than when I'm in alignment and feeling that place of peace and gratitude, that's showing me that I have to work. And I can say, when have I felt that kind of grief? When have I was the first time?
Right.
What did I feel? So do this depth with it. It's neat because often we might miss those other ones.
Yeah,
the
good
other
point.
opportunities.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, anything that doesn't feel good, it's to take, or what?
Yeah. We're triggered.
Yeah,
Anything that
that's
doesn't feel good, we're triggered.
And the point of that is not to deny what we're experiencing, but to find the cause in the matter, find the root of it, and clearing that up. Like I say, it's the projection of that early wounding, like it's my fault, or I'm not good enough, or whatever. That's what's creating the distortion field through which we're perceiving it. Now, like with Grace's example of Mother Teresa, she was not in a distortion field created by her own attachment and her own personal story about it. And so she was full on service, right? doing what was in front of her to do. But if we're caught up in our own fear-based conclusion about ourselves, then we're in a distortion field and we can't act coherently and effectively, right?
I mean, I share one more thing that
Yes.
we experienced today together,
Yeah.
that I actually was triggered in a dream.
Yeah.
And I used my dream when I came out of the dream to go through my step to it again. And that was really, really powerful.
Really
So
good work you did.
There was also some really good opportunities in our dreams. Thank you.
And Polly, isn't it true that the only true emotion, the real emotion is joy? Everything else like mood.
Well, I don't even know if you'd call it an emotion. It's a state of being that is our true nature. And it is joyful. You know, at the most, our true nature is happy and peaceful and free and joyful, right? But it's not emotion in the same sense that as a body-mind unit, we generate emotion, right? Which is often going to be in contrast, which engages us in the polarity. Yeah, and we want to drop that stick. And meta to that stick is joy without an opposite. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. We're at that moment where we're going to go into meditation for 45 minutes, silent meditation. You're welcome to leave or stay either on the Zoom or in the group here. Anything else you want to say, Polly, to wrap it up here?
Thank you all so much. It was great. And I missed you guys last week, and thank you for showing up again today. You guys and you guys.
You ready?
Yep.
Ready to rock? Okay. Goodbye. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha. Thank you, Polly.
Thank you, everyone. Amazing space.
Thank you, Pali, and thank you, Robin, for make it possible.
Who's that?
Sabrina, you're welcome,
Ah,
Sabrina.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you.
Okay, we'll see you.
Is that right there?
Sabrina, that's
Mhm.
Sabrina. And Lee is here and Nick is here and yeah. Okay, we'll see you next week.
Yes.
Same place.
Thank you, Polly. Yeah, everybody. Bye.